When slumber first came out, where was that in relation to the awareness of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh man, great question, man. I'm happy to say zero awareness.
So it was
So
pre-pandemic.
yeah, it was pre. I mean, just right there, man. So as I said before, it took me 6 years to write Slumber. I published Slumber on February 2nd, 2020, which essentially was a month and a half before the lockdown. So at that point, I hadn't really heard anything about COVID. And then at some point at towards the end of February, I think I began to hear a little something about some disease in China that was messing dudes up. That didn't really mean anything to me, right? Because that's the fifth or sixth time we've heard something like that in the last 20 years, at least, right?
Yeah.
And if you recall, we had Charter Day festivities at Howard like the first week of March of 2020. So I'm in DC, and it was a big, huge thing. And we found out later, like days later, that there was somebody at the gala that had COVID. Oh, it was here. And am I okay? And what does this mean? And this is before anybody understood what the symptoms were,
Right.
what the fallout might be, and all of that. And then, and then we locked down, bro, by mid-March.
So the world goes through this shared experience of virus-related pandemic, and you've just released a book about a virus that puts 2/3 of the United States into a coma. How does that impact you in your marketing? How does that impact you in your completion of the second book?
I didn't really exploit that from a marketing perspective because honestly, I didn't know how to do that without it seeming to be sort of insensitive.
I wouldn't even thought exploit. I would have thought it would have hindered you so much. Like, I can't even write this story. Or does it just inform like the creative process? Like, well, now I know so much more about viruses.
Well, I'll tell you, now I know so much more about how a society reacts and doesn't react properly to a virus, right? We've seen a whole lot of good reaction, a whole lot of bad reaction, especially, with the previous administration. And a lot of people, man, they read my book, and especially if they heard the premise, they were straight up asking me, hey, Ted, are you out here being prophetic? Man, I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Hey, man, congratulations on making it through the difficulty. I clearly remember you telling me the process of writing the first book, and the fact that you've developed processes that allowed that second book to be pulled out of your head with less friction is fantastic. So I think folks will definitely want to check out sleepersbooks.com.
So, Brendan, I appreciate that. I want to shout you out too, man. I want to make sure I say this too, man. I'm glad we came back to this. You're the very first interview that I did on a series. I've done a ton of them since then. But you're the first, and I wanted to make sure that you're also the first interview I did for Awakening, because I just appreciate you. I appreciate your support and your show and your thought-provoking questions. And it really helps me even to think more about my own work. And I thank you, man. I just appreciate your work that you do.
Hey, man, thanks so much.